The beauty of tracking is in the story it tells, not just on giving you hard information, number of visits, and you say, well, that's good or that's bad. That information needs to inform what you're going to do, what steps you're going to take to make it look the way you want it to look so that you can achieve the goals and the targets that you set for yourself. Every measurement that we're speaking about today, it's not just to know the figures, it's to know the figures and then understand what do I need to do because of that. So if you have a high volume of people falling off in their third week, something needs to be done. Always, whenever we speak about tracking, it's always, yes, we want to track the numbers, but we want to understand what story is that telling and what decisions do I need to make because of it.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Welcome to episode 116 of the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we give you the exact tactics, strategies, and mindsets that you need to fulfill your destiny by helping thousands of people in your community and dominating your market in your life. I'm one of your hosts, Rory Morgan, along here with Jennifer Gligoric and Tracey Sundkvist. And by the end of today's episode, you will know exactly how to retain patients longer and make your clinic more profitable. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be continuing our conversation from the last few episodes about the patient journey. And in the last couple episodes, we talked about the patient journey as far as the lead flow perspective and the lead conversion perspective. But then there's two more core functions in your business. Those functions would be fulfillment, actually delivering what you promised them when you were converting them, and then retaining patients and reselling patients. That's the back end of your business, getting referrals, right? So those are two more functions that we're going to discuss today. I think we can move through this one pretty quickly.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about why the fulfillment journey is so important. Obviously, that's the name of the game, right? To get patients in, we sell them, and then boom, we give them our service, right? Because that's what they're paying for. But it should be more than just for the patient's point of view. I'm going to the doctor and I'm having my doctor visit, or I'm getting adjusted. Patients need to feel a little bit more connected to their journey and care so they commit to the care plan. One of the biggest complaints we get from our client doctors is about fall off, retention, or they just don't seem committed, or they won't just do everything that I've asked them to do. There's a lack of understanding or even trust on the patient's part that you're getting them to an end goal. So when we're building this funnel, which is what we've been talking about this entire time, taking them down this funnel, the funnel doesn't stop when they're sold. It continues the entire life cycle of that patient. So what you want to do is get patients out of that Groupon mindset, that experience. Well, I can just go somewhere else. One doctor is just the same as another. You want to build a valuable experience. Med spas in particular have a really hard time with this. They will make themselves a commodity, competing just on price. It's not a journey to the patient that comes in of renewal with a supportive team of professionals who know, like them, and want them get to their end goal. That's not how the patients feel. I'm just going to get here, I'm going to get something, and hopefully I'll finally get what I want. And so everything we're talking about is not just changing our mindset as far as the fulfillment journey goes internally in the clinic, but also the mindset of the staff. You should start having benchmarks through that fulfillment journey with the patient. Let's say it's a med spa and they're coming to get dark spots removed. If you're using laser, there is a period of time. Sometimes it's 1 to 2 weeks. The dark spots or hyperpigmentation gets worse. In some people, it turns black and then it crusts, it falls off, and then there's new skin. If you don't really educate them and continue to support this education, that can be very jarring for them. And then they have a negative experience. And most clinic owners will say, well, yes, that makes sense. We do something. We send them home with a pamphlet. We're talking about seeding it more in and following up with them, maybe adding in a phone call, adding in some emails, because what you're doing through fulfillment is you're preparing them for the next stage with you. It could be wellness with chiropractic care or functional medicine. It could be continuing to go to you because you're their trusted beauty advisor for other things that they need and even other services that you have. You want the patient to think, why on earth would I go anywhere else? They understand me. They're here with me. They're constantly communicating with me. And the great thing about that is if you have a set journey, then you can automate a lot of these tasks. And it could just make it on your end, it's easy, but for them, they're getting this constant support from you. So I wanted to see that in. There's a reason we're doing it. If you do it well, patients stay with you for longer, they're happier, they're more apt to refer to you and give you new business, and then to upsell to anything new or cross-selling along the way.
Yep. Yeah, and I think just what you want to keep in mind from when you understand your business. I don't care if we're talking about a roofer. I don't care if we're talking about Xerox copy machines. I don't care if we're talking about a chiropractor. There's only 3 ways to grow a business. Okay. You can get more clients or more patients. You can charge more for your service or your treatment or your product, or you can increase the frequency of purchase. That's the only things any business can do, right? So sometimes you hear about the wisdom of how valuable certain businesses are, right? Certain businesses that are able to be sold for really high multiples, they're almost always recurring revenue businesses, right? They have a monthly subscription. Well, why is that so valuable? It's because the frequency of purchase is high, right? They purchase more often. They purchase every month, and the person needs this subscription. A business like life insurance is an extremely valuable business. It's hard to get clients for life insurance, right? It's hard to get the leads and make the sales, but then once you have them, holy cow, they're paying you for 20 years. They're not going to stop. And so what we want to do is we want to take that wisdom and we want to understand that what we're talking about today is increasing frequency of purchase, and we're talking about increasing overall like price, basically, right? When they'll purchase more things or more valuable stuff, right? So I just want you to understand that from the business concept is that your clinic is a business, right? And something that Jennifer said, which is like she mentioned med spas have a particular issue here, which is I think you probably over the last few episodes have bought into the concept of you want to be a trusted advisor. You don't want to be selling a service or a treatment or just some one-off product. Right. A good example of this in the med spa space was I just remember this.
Botox.
Well, Botox is a really obvious one, but there
Yeah,
was one that,
vials.
yeah, there was one that popped up. I want to say it was like 10 years ago, which was cool sculpting. And cool sculpting was such a big deal for a while. But what clinics did is they just sold cool sculpting treatments, right? And so when cool sculpting was new and it was trendy, they made a lot of money. But that's all that they were selling was cool sculpting treatments. And so they never really developed loyalty and they never took that cool sculpting and they put it into a more cohesive package, right? They didn't take all of these pieces together and say, I'm going to get you this end result. It was just, they were just selling treatments, right? And so once cool sculpting became a commodity and everyone in your city had it, then it was just became a race to the bottom, right? And then there was competitors that came in. There's M Sculpt and M Sculpt Neo and Cool Sculpt Neo and all of these different versions, right? And it just became a commodity. And so the point is you want to be a trusted advisor. And so what we're going to make the point of today is, okay, you probably get that for the sales process, but you have to continue that into your fulfillment process. How do you maintain the trusted advisor positioning as you're delivering the service? You can't transition from, okay, now I sold this thing perfectly. And now I'm just going to transition to, okay, show up and get your service and goodbye.
And
Right.
I want to add in when Rory is talking about and cool sculpting is a race to the bottom because they only did one thing. We are not talking about making your business more complicated and getting multiple core offers like, oh, now I'll do cool sculpting and then I'm going to open up a post office box because those people come in all the time and then I'll be your travel agent. No,
Yeah. And
those are
sell pizza
complicated.
too.
And sell pizza too, right? Or I'm going to do all these other things. I'll add in, I'll add in med spa stuff or whatever. These are all ancillary things to get to the core offer of what you're selling, which is the thinner, happier you, as long as it's the same core offer. So
Yeah.
I want to say that so people don't get confused and say, but you always tell us,
Yeah.
one core offer. So I did want to bring that one up.
Yeah, and it might be just to give people an example so they can kind of drive this home. We can do the same example. We can do it for chiropractic. We can do it for neuropathy. We could do it for all sorts of things. But with the cool sculpting, it's like, okay, you've got the cool sculpting treatments, but is that all that person needs, right? So it's like, okay, we're gonna do the M Sculpt Neo or the cool sculpting or whatever. We're gonna do the body sculpting, right? That's gonna give you that immediate fat loss, right? But you're also going to need a nutritional plan, right? So we can provide the nutritional plan. You're also going to need probably like maybe some lymphatic drainage, right? And then maybe that would move into like a weight loss, or excuse me, like a maintenance, like, red light every once a month to just keep things going, right? And it's like, so these are all complementary and you can package it up, right? And
Yeah, I
so,
think Rory,
yeah.
something that we see here quite often when we taking people through the program is that initially when chiropractors or doctors start, they get very focused on taking new patients through their process. And what can even happen there is even though they're making more revenue from new patients, you can see that the organic revenue starts to drop because there's less focus on what they have already, the database that they have already, and they shift that focus to new. But
Mm-hmm.
you kind of need to see it as almost like a two bucket system. The one bucket, you need to maintain that healthy, organic existing client base, and you need to top that up with enough new patients so that you can sustain your growth over the long term. If you
Yep.
don't do that, you're literally leaving money on the table because when you take the foot off your gas, if you stop offering value to existing patients, they'll go somewhere else. You're not the only one in town. You're not the only one flashing, fantastic offers in front of them. They have a ton of different options. So you need to make sure that you're there, that you're visible, that you communicate, and that you run several different initiatives through the course of a 12-month period.
Yeah, 100%. So let's kind of get into what are you actually tracking for your fulfillment so that you can actually say we're doing a good job of fulfilling or we're missing what people's expectations are. They're not happy with the results or they're less than satisfied, right? So the first thing would be actual patient compliance. Okay? So very simply, are people completing their care plan? And you should have an actual percentage, right? What percentage of people complete the recommended treatment protocol, right? If it's 36 visits, if it's 5 visits, whatever it is, right? Are people completing it? And you should have a percentage of completion, right? Now, you might be tracking something like average number of patient visits right now. What that is you're tracking patient compliance, okay? Average patient visits is going to be like, I get why people track that, but it's a little bit removed from understanding the your business has four core functions and understanding that, like, I'm selling them something specific Are they completing the specific thing that I sold them?
And so just to talk about that, it would be easy to have just a spreadsheet, and to have each patient name when they're sold on the program, and then each week of the program, and then you just put an X or a number 1 into each week. And then if they don't come that week, there's not a 1 in there. And over time, you can look at that and you can see, well, it looks like, we have a lot of patients that are leaving us in week 6 or week 7. You can actually start to get a percentage rate, like 100% of patients who start the program show up for week 1, but only 99% show up for week 2. And this is where we're at, so that you can build something into that process and go, I wonder why that is. You can ask yourself that question and go, well, this is usually when the hyperpigmentation, if it's a med spa, it starts to, scab up and fall off, and maybe they think it's uneven. They get a little freaked out. We're not giving them enough support to let them know that that pink skin is going to turn into good skin, and we're about to put them on a medical grade skincare program that's going to even them out, and they're going to just be glowing. Right. Or this is when someone with sciatic pain, it tends to hurt a lot more. You get that people who use stem cells and other things, there's a period of time where they're actually in a lot of pain, but it means it's working. If you're not consistently reinforcing that, this too shall pass and the other side is so great, you need to keep on coming back, then they're just going to go, this sucks, I don't want this.
Yep.
And if you don't have the data, you don't know. You can only guess.
Yep. Yeah. And so when you track that and you start to see, oh, it's week 6 or it's week 3, right? Maybe it's like, maybe that's just when people really start to experience pain relief, right? And it's like, hey, I have a lot more mobility in my knee or my back, and I'm sleeping better. Like, this is where I start to feel good. And that's all I wanted, was to feel good, right? So what you can look at is be like, okay, it's week 4. So what you can start to do is be like, okay, what we need to do then is we need to start implementing specific education. So every single person that comes in on their 8th visit or whatever it is during week 3, we take them through a specific 3-minute presentation telling them, here's what you should expect. You're going to start feeling better. You're going to start sleeping through the night. You're going to be noticing a lot of pain relief. Here's why you're noticing it. Here's what's going on in your body. And then you can take them through in order, and you can start to pre-frame and educate that as this happens, what you need to do is you need to continue through for a couple more months to make sure that the body completely heals. Because not experiencing pain doesn't mean you've solved the root cause. It just means you've gotten rid of the symptoms, right? And so you keep re-educating. So you do that on visit 8 and you do it on visit 11, whatever it is, right? Depending on your business. And you have like pre-scripted talks that you give people. And then all of a sudden people stop dropping off in week 4. Right. And that's how you do it. But you have to see that. So those are called activation points. And you have to understand, well, the people that stick with us do these things, right? And so you could maybe implement a survey that reminds them, right? Where it's like they took the survey at the beginning and they rated themselves as a 9. And then you take the survey in week 4 and they rate themselves as a 3 on the pain scale, and you can celebrate them and you can say, this is why we do this. And guess what? If you keep doing this, you're going to stay at a 3 or below. And we're going to get you down to a 0, right? And so you can pre-frame all of this stuff when you start tracking. Okay. So the next stat that I would say is LTV, lifetime value. Very simple. How much is each patient worth to me? Right? This is one number. This is like, $4,127.62, right? This is an average over a long period of time. You're probably tracking something right now like PVA, patient visit average. Again, this is another thing that I understand why people track it, but it doesn't as closely relate. Your $65 patient visit average doesn't as closely relate to the functions of the business, right? It doesn't track exactly back to what you sold them And are they actually following through with getting what you sold them? Right. And so what I would suggest is you don't put as much focus on PVA as you put on LTV.
And I just
Rory, I'm
So,
wanted,
reminded
oh, go ahead.
again how just the tracking, the beauty of tracking is in the story it tells,
mhm,
not just on giving you hard information, number of visits, and you say, well, that's good or that's bad. That information needs to inform what you're going to do, what steps you're going to take to make it look the way you want it to look so that you can achieve the goals and the targets that you set for yourself. Or every measurement that we're speaking about today, it's not just to know the figures, it's to know the figures and then understand what do I need to do because of that. Right?
yes,
So if you have a high volume of people falling off in their third week, it's something something needs to be done, right? It's
yep,
something you need to see to because you're never going to hit the long-term value. You're not going to make them worth over $4,000 if they stop seeing you in week 3. So always, whenever we speak about tracking, it's always, yes, we want to track the numbers, but we want to understand what story is that telling and what
right.
decisions do I need to make because of it?
And I just want to break in and say, we have guests here on Super Clinic Project Podcast, and I two of the guests, I'm thinking Stephanie Hayes, who is an absolutely brilliant exit business strategist, and she works with a lot of clinics. Tom Dillon of Frac Finance. Both of them, when they come in and you're actually wanting to exit, this is exactly the numbers that they're going to be asking you to do. That I was actually stunned. I guess I'm a little bit removed from exits now, but it's the same thing that we're telling you. These are the numbers that put you into a position of strength as an owner to where you can really make actionable decisions, but also too the people that are going to be helping you see if your business is actually a profitable, worthy thing that you're working on. You're trying to build something where you can exit or you can sell that has value. These are the numbers that those people are going to be looking at or they're going to ask you about. And in both of the cases, they too will come in and say, well, based on this data, we think you need to drive this in your business. It's
Yep.
all the same thing. It's not like we're all doing different things in our little things. It's all closely related. So no matter who you go to, whether it's a finance person, an exit strategist, or a strategy company like us, it's all the same thing because this is what matters.
Yep. Those are going to be the first two questions a business buyer is going to ask. What's the lifetime value of a client? And what's it cost you to get that client, right? So lifetime value we just talked about, and we talked about client acquisition cost in our previous episode. If it costs you $1,000 to get one and your lifetime value is 980, you're not profitable, right? Like you can measure all of this stuff. So um, a business buyer is looking at an investment, right? I am investing. I'm going to have to pay money to get this business. The numbers are going to tell him how long it's going to take to earn his money back or her money back, right? If it costs you $500 to get a client and then all of a sudden, but that client's worth 6,000, I'm going to make my money back a lot faster, right? It's a good investment. So that's what we're at. Okay, so the next two things you want to track in fulfillment are 5-star reviews. So you want to track 5-star reviews, and 5-star reviews are going to tell you want to actually have a percentage. How many people give us a 5-star review? The next thing you want to track is video testimonials, right? So we talked a little bit about activation points. What you can actually do is you can look at your journey and you can see when are people most happy, right? Maybe it's after 10 days they actually start to see felt benefit, noticeable differences in their skin, noticeable reduction in pain within 10 days. Well, what you can now do is you can say, okay, at 10 days, because we know that a very high percentage of our clients experience this, that's when we ask for a 5-star review. That's when we ask for a video testimonial, right? But you have to track this to know when that is. Maybe for you, it's after, maybe it's like functional health and it's like a more of a arduous journey of like really finding what's wrong with their gut and getting rid of inflammation. Maybe it's at month 3, but you build that into your process and you say, this is where we ask for a review. This is where we ask for a referral, right? But you can't do that unless you're tracking it. So, but those are the big ones. And if you measure those things, you can know I'm doing a good job on fulfillment or I'm not doing a good job, right? And then you can set a goal and say, okay, we're at 1 out of 5 patients gives us a 5-star review. Our goal is to get to 3 out of 5, right? And you can say, okay, we're going to do these things to change that. And then for the back end of your business, that fourth function, which is retention, referrals, resells, upsells, right? You want to track referrals. So you need to actually have a target for how many referrals do we get for each patient. The reality is the best businesses in the world, they are at least 1-to-1, right? The goal for every business, and this is possible, is that each client or patient or customer gives you on average at least 1.1, just a little bit more than 1. Why is that the magic number? Because your business will keep growing without doing marketing. You won't have to do advertising and go out and find new patients. Your business will keep growing because on average, each patient gives you at least one, just a smidge more than 1. All right. So if it's 1.1 and you get 10 new patients, that means those 10 new patients will give you 11 new patients the next month. All right. So that's what you want to understand. That's what the goal needs to be. And again, we already talked about, well, when do I ask for referrals? Well, you've got to figure that out based on your new patient journey. But the thing that I would emphasize here is it's not that every patient gives you 1. Some patients aren't going to give you 1. That's okay. But there are going to be other patients that give you 10 or 5, right? There's always these super referrers, right? What you need to do is you need to figure out what is my process that I'm taking them through so that I maximize it, so I can get the most possible. The next statistic that you want to track is retention onto your maintenance plan or your VIP plan, your ongoing wellness plan, whatever you call that. You need a percentage. So what percentage of people, once they complete their care plan, sign up for the next thing, right? I get my once a month adjustment and it's a yearly membership or a monthly payment, right? Because now you have that recurring revenue. And that person who started by paying you $3,500 for their care plan, well, now it's a lot less. Now they're only paying you $150 a month, but they're still with you. They're giving you that recurring. Right?
And for med spas, this can be your medical grade skincare. It can be hormones that people need every single month. Once they get their weight, usually there's hormone treatment or nutritional supplements or different skincare things, red light therapy. There's a whole wealth of different things that you can use, and they can come back just to you month after month.
Yeah, and it's like you can include things in there, like you get one maintenance laser treatment every month or every 2 months, right? Or it's like, hey, there's a supplement. You get I give you the best price on this supplement that's going to keep your skin looking nice or going to keep your joints feeling good, right? And it's like you're including value. It's not just that you're throwing this like, hey, I need to get them to keep paying me. You make it very clear, like, we made progress. We changed your skin. We changed your mobility. We changed your pain situation. Now let's keep it this way. And that's all you have to do is continue with this plan, right? So that's the next thing you're tracking. And then this is very similar. It's very closely related, but it's cross-sell, right? So a good example of this is, I think we might have mentioned this on a previous episode, but we have a client that does HRT for women, right? And it's a very common side effect that after a few months of increasing, they have a higher testosterone level because of the hormone work that's being done. They might start noticing a little extra body hair, right? Like maybe it's kind of like, faint, but I almost have like a little bit of a mustache, right? So she's cross-selling laser hair removal, right? Or, I have more leg hair than I used to have. So she's cross-selling that. And that's a cross-sell, right? And so you can pre-plan this stuff out and make this very systematic. And ultimately what this allows you to do is have a business where you can hire an employee and it's like, here is your job. You manage this part of the process. You are responsible for these metrics that we are tracking, right? And so you have a business that is an asset instead of a business that is a job. Anything else to add, ladies?
No, that's it. I think we got it really good for fulfillment. I'm excited.
Awesome. Okay. Well, with that being said, I want to remind everyone that the fee for listening to this podcast is that you do have to refer a friend. Please email a friend. Let them know, hey, you got to listen to this podcast. This podcast helps me understand my business. It's a game changer. If this is valuable to you, share the love. We're providing it for free of monetary charge, but there is a fee and you've got to pay the fee. So please do that. And then go to superclinicproject.com. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and join our mastermind where the three of us, as well as Dr. Zano, will show, like, you can download these documents. You can download these systems. You can learn all of this stuff and get all of access to all of this. You can try it free for 14 days and, learn how to grow your clinic to multiple $100,000 months in there. So with that being said, thanks for your time and we'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project podcast.